Video hot for audio.
So that tuning fork that Cliff just played, it rings with the actual harmonic frequency of the planet Mercury. It resonates with what practitioners of deeper arts than mine would know as the throat chakra. And it starts us off this Sunday morning with a fair and welcome warning that things are about to get a little weird, my friends. Here on this big Science Sunday at River Road Unitarian Universalist Congregation. And so, may this light that we kindle always in community burn with an illumination just over the edge of all our understanding. A light you don't just talk about, you don't just theorize about, a light that you feel, like resonance somewhere in your body, connecting you and us all to a vastness so much larger than ourselves. Welcome indeed to River Road Unitarian Universalist Congregation here as summer starts to wane and the whole arc of time bends toward new seasons and maybe unimagined possibilities. This Sunday, we are joined by Dave Leonard's amazing creative spirit, music that seems at times to come from the very air itself, as we get a little wild and push beyond the confines of being super duper normal people, not that we ever were in the first place. If this is your first time here at River Road, welcome indeed to this place. You get to show up being weird too. In whatever way that makes itself known, welcome to your whole self. Welcome to your clarity and your questions, your cynicism and your surety. Welcome to the part of you that is not and never will be a joiner. And welcome to the part of you who craves community like a traveler in the desert, all alone. If you are indeed new or feeling new, to the River Road community, to the connections we try to create here, please send us an email anytime at connections@rruuc.org with your name so that we can greet you and come. Let us do this wild, fascinating thing we call worship together. You know, some welcomes, some first encounters just plain make a heart happy. And so it is in this place. Every time we welcome a new part of our team, a new staff member, someone to learn and grow and change alongside us, River Road has been a teaching congregation for generations, in fact. And intern ministers come and go into this place as they make their way into service throughout progressive faith. It is always a joy because we are always changed. And today, I am so delighted to introduce you for a very first encounter to our latest teacher and learner, who is going to get up to all sorts of adventures and good trouble alongside us this year, our intern minister, Kirsten.
Good morning, River Road. My name is Kirsten Lodel, and I am so thrilled to be joining you as your intern minister for the coming academic year. I am about to enter my second year as a Master of Divinity candidate at Union Theological Seminary in New York City. And a key part of our second year training is called field education, which means that we get to work in a congregational setting and learn more about parish life and ministry. For the coming year, I will be splitting my time between taking classes in New York and being right here in DC, where I live with my husband, Jeff, and my 3 elementary school-aged daughters, Billy, Joni, and Cece. I'll be spending about 15 hours a week here at River Road, joining you for worship several Sundays a month, and supporting the team in other arenas, including congregational care and public witness. Prior to pursuing my Master of Divinity, I spent more than 20 years founding and growing a national anti-poverty organization called LIFT. And a few years after I started LIFT, I found my way to Unitarian Universalism and what has been my home congregation of All Souls, just a few miles away from here in DC. For me, worshiping as a UU offered this totally revelatory integration of my personal, professional, and spiritual selves, and I had an inkling that ministry might be in my future. That is what I now have the great honor of discerning with the support and feedback of the amazing Reverend Nancy and all of you here at River Road. Today's service revolves around the notion of encounter. Yes, the celestial and extraterrestrial encounter attempts of billionaires, but also the day-to-day, human-to-human encounters we have right here on Earth. And it just so happens that I will be encountering all of you for the first time, just as the doors of this physical sanctuary are slated to reopen, and you all are positioned to re-encounter one another after a year and a half of doing your best to worship and stay connected through screens. I can only imagine the scope of the exhaustion and the grief and the fear and the frustration that so many of you have been carrying throughout this COVID year and a half, and that so many of you may continue to be carrying, particularly as the Delta variant now rages on. I hope that as a member of the River Road team this coming year, I can help you rest and refill your hearts and your spirits so that together we may have the fortitude to face another week, even in the midst of ongoing uncertainty and challenges. I approach this role believing that my job is to help each of you be your best, most reflective, most supported, and most resilient selves. So, like any first encounter, as Nancy mentioned, I find this a little bit scary, but mostly I find this beautiful and so full of possibility. I truly believe that we have the opportunity through our encounters in this sacred space every week to model the kind of society in which we wish to live and thrive. And that is the fundamental work of building beloved community. Thank you so much for having me.
Are we so lucky? Because the work ahead of us is the work of constant adaptation, of embracing change, of embracing the surprises of new learning that come only when we share that learning together. Of course, not only Kirsten, but every new beginning, every new addition, every new page in the book that we are writing is an invitation to practice not just what we want to do together, but how we want to be together. And our announcements today just highlight a few of those ways that we can be the people we dream about. Firstly, you know that in this constant opportunity to flex our flexibility, we love each other too much not to adapt. And so I invite you to check your email, your inbox, maybe your spam filter for an email I sent you Friday about the latest in our reopening plans. Yes, we are still planning. to gather here in this space for 2 services at 10 o'clock and 12 o'clock each Sunday morning starting September 12th. Know that with COVID restrictions, we have chosen to reduce capacity in this space, of course, lovingly maintaining all of the ventilation, cleaning, and masking protocols that we have upheld throughout every iteration of that plan. Religious education will be out of doors, and you can, in fact, get a sneak peek at the whole operation by joining us at 10 o'clock for soft opening Sundays on the 29th of August and the 5th of September. Here we are, reinventing what it means to be and do congregational life for at least the 3rd time together. At least on this day, I am not afraid to flex my flexibility, and I hope you aren't either. We know that the work goes on as well. As always, our commitment to building a fairer and more free world never pauses. And our commitment to building a more just democracy continues because in 2020, River Road, in fact, did make a difference in encouraging people in several swing states to vote, and we are not done. Elections are just like Sunday mornings. They just keep coming, and we need to rise to meet them. And so right now, you're invited to join our Actions for Justice team in writing postcards for the election upcoming in Virginia. You can help turn out voters for the November election. We're planning that postcard campaign in a way that you can support in a variety of ways. Let us know if you're willing to send 20 or more postcards, and you can come right here to River Road next Saturday afternoon to pick them up. You can also donate money or stamps to help support those endeavors. You can reach out to Catherine Gregarovich or Ursula Scott, or you can just drop a line to office@ruuc.org. We'll also put the direct email contact for those 2 leaders in the chat. You can pick up your postcards, you can make a difference, you can participate in the continued evolution of building a new way. And next Saturday evening, of course, after you've picked up all your postcards and done the very best you can to preserve democracy, you can join us at Seneca Creek State Park's Buck Shelter House for an evening Vespers service featuring River Road's very own jam band. We'll have a BYO picnic dinner at 5:30 just before the outdoor service. And I hope you'll come, because this is how we do it, connecting safely and lovingly as we chart a new course forward together. We do all of this, of course, in light of the joys and the concerns that bring us to laughter and bring us to tears, the very real hurts and hopes of the world and of our own hearts. Fire and flood and the shaking of the earth. From California's hillsides to Haiti to our own cities, our hearts are with those who are impacted and displaced by the crises and the tragedies of our days, with all those lost and grieving, with all those yearning for a way forward, even when it seems there is no way. And of course, we grieve our own losses. The losses right here, the losses in our families and in our hearts. Our hearts are with Evelyn Jacob, who grieves the loss of her younger brother, Mike, who died 2 weeks ago near his home in Cincinnati from complications arising from his cancer treatment. He is deeply missed, as is, in every way, the life of Justin Downs, son of former River Roaders, longtime friends of so many of us, Linda and Tim Downs. Justin grew up here. He ran these hallways and he dreamed big dreams in this very room alongside so many of you. Justin died on July 27th at just 41 years old. Having done more in those brief years he was given upon this earth to change and serve the world than most of us could dream about. Justin was the founder of 2 companies. He worked around the world building and supporting telecommunications networks that brought opportunity and jobs and innovation in the place of disconnection, sometimes in the very poorest parts of the globe. We mourn him, we are grateful for him, and we remember. Holding all of this, holding all of our best laid plans and the ways they fall apart, holding our laughter and our tears. Won't you join me in a spirit of prayer and of meditation? Spirit of life and of love, you who are greater and more mysterious than any name any people have ever given you, it feels so often that we are in the midst of a storm that buffets us about in first one direction and then another. We are in the midst of a storm when we thought we had come through the long rain. Even still, we gather. We gather knowing that though we cannot control the buffeting of these winds, nor even the shaking of the earth, we can control the expansiveness of our own hearts, our willingness to express a flexibility that stretches and does not consume, that embraces and does not demolish. Spirit of life, yes, even in our grieving, yes, even in our vast confusion, may we know that though we are small, we are vast enough to hold each other. May we know that even though we are confused, we are intelligent enough to imagine a new way. May we know that even though we are weary, we have energy enough to do the next right thing. Spirit of life and source of love, you dwell within us, among us, and yes, in ways we cannot always know beyond us. May we together, all of us, have all the courage we need for the journey that lies ahead, and may we be abundantly blessed, yes, even in and among our grieving. Amen. You know, every month we have the incredible opportunity to take some of the gifts we have been given, gifts of time, of talent, of treasure, of capacity and effort, and to turn them outward toward the world and the organizations that make the most difference. This month's Extending the Offering collection will go to the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee. The UUSC was founded 80 years ago during the Second World War in times of almost unimaginable pain. Now the UUSC works in the United States and many developing countries around the world to focus on challenging injustice and advancing human rights. The UUSC builds partnerships with grassroots organizations. It defends the rights of people displaced due to everything that is displacing the people, even today: climate, conflict, economic hardship. The work is grounded in the belief that all people have an inherent right to confront unjust power structures and to mobilize to challenge oppressive policies. And so I hope we will support that interconnection to a network larger than ourselves, enabling encounters of hope across the globe.
Hello, friends. My name is Laura Randall, and I'm a minister on staff here at the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, better known as UUSC. We are grateful and honored that you've chosen to share your offering today with UUSC. For those who may be hearing about us for the first time, UUSC is an international human rights organization grounded in Unitarian Universalist values and founded in response to the rise of Nazism. Since our founding in 1940, we have continued to support people facing humanitarian crisis and displacement from their homes due to natural disaster, political violence, genocide, severe climate change impacts, and more. UUSC's work is based on a partnership model that centers the experience and leadership of the people who are most impacted by injustice. This partnership includes support of some of the most creative and courageous groups of people you can imagine, who are working for justice, often under very dangerous conditions. For example, we work with partners in Alaska, Louisiana, and the Pacific to support Indigenous communities facing rising seas, melting permafrost, and other severe climate change impacts in their ancestral homelands. We partner to support Central Americans fleeing gang violence, gender-based violence, and economic devastation, working with our partners to support people in migration and asylum seekers in transit and in the United States, as well as collaborating to address the root causes of migration. Like most UU institutions, we carry forward this bold work with a modest budget. We work smart, we strive to be agile, and our work with our partners, innovative grassroots organizers and courageous activists, has proven to be a very effective way to make a tangible difference in places where people are often left behind by larger, more bureaucratic organizations. We are proud to receive the highest rating from Charity Navigator for our financial health and our accountability and transparency practices. We are able to do all that we do because people like you, and indeed some of you here today, make it possible with financial support. Your support ensures that in these chaotic times, with threats to human rights expanding in many arenas, our response too can expand. That's why I'm inviting you today to join us or renew your membership with a gift of any amount. We are a membership organization and receive no funding from the UUA. It is your donations that make UUSC's work possible. Information on how to give will be provided after this video. Or you can make a gift by going to uusc.org. We also encourage you to sign up for UUSC action alerts by texting UUSC to 52886. Gifts of $150 or more from individuals are eligible to be matched dollar for dollar by the UU congregation at Shelter Rock. On behalf of the other 40 people on staff, our partners and allies around the world, thank you. Thank you for your generosity and your commitment to human rights in this critical time. We couldn't do this work without you.
Indeed, we have all the ways to give. In addition to going directly to the UUSC website, you can give right off of the River Road website. You can also send us a check the old-fashioned way with the designation Unitarian Universalist Service Committee on the memo line, and of course, and always, you can text to give. Our text to give number is 73256. Then RRUUC, you'll see UUSC, Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, near the top of the drop-down menu. Please give as you are willing and able, as we are blessed with the wonder and the weirdness and the beauty of the resonance we create together. So I want to confess from the start that I have really, really wanted a distraction lately. I've really wanted something else, anything at all, to think about, to ponder in the grand abstraction, to opine over with relatively little consequence, something else to read and to wonder about besides the aerosols and their spread, besides the fires that burn out of control, and yes, besides all 4,000 pages of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change that just came out telling us unequivocally that we are careening to and perhaps right over the edge of calamity. For a few short days this summer, if I am honest, I declared emotional and intellectual bankruptcy on all of the above subjects. The most important ones facing all of our world and facing my own heart. I declared emotional and intellectual bankruptcy on the whole shebang, and Lord help me, decided instead to read everything I could get my hands on about aliens. More comprehensively, I read everything I could about aliens while also joining the entire rest of the country and half the world in laughing my head off self-righteously about Jeff Bezos's cowboy hat, and fuming, confusedly, at his very suggestive-looking rocket ship, and the fact that Elon Musk has plans to actually put an honest-to-God advertising billboard in space. And Richard Branson? I mean, it's amazing. The man has the most astonishing mismatch of color between facial hair and head hair of anyone on Earth, and yet this is who we send into space as an ambassador to the stars. And the honest truth of it all is that it was a welcome distraction to fume about the billionaires in space. For a moment, to feel righteous about that cowboy hat and that silly-looking rocket ship and all the absurdities of truly ungodly wealth, it came right on time, right when I needed to feel righteous about something and laugh about something. In a way, it sent me down a kind of rabbit hole of thinking about what's happening in that big somewhere out there beyond Earth's gravity, right when I needed a bit of a release from the gravity of it all around us. And it turns out, in fact, that this very moment, this very summer, this very time on our beleaguered and ever so hot planet Earth is in fact an awfully interesting time to be distracted by the stars. Take, for instance, the fact that an interstellar object traveling at almost 200,000 miles per hour was tracked by the Pan-STARRS 1 satellite atop the highest peak in Maui just a few years ago in 2017. Its brightness of this object, it varied from moment to moment by a factor of 10, and this object, this strange thing we know not what, it zipped away from the sun in a manner not at all consistent with any known aspects of the gravity of this solar system. In fact, a Harvard astrophysicist, Avi Loeb, he published a book just this spring in which he argued that a logical conclusion holds that this strange object, dubbed Oumuamua, or interstellar visitor, was in fact something like space garbage, the derelict remains of a technologically advanced civilization. And even now, while certainly not everyone agrees with Dr. Avi Loeb's conclusion that we have been visited, no one else has posited an explanation that fully comprises the strangeness of that object's behavior either. Or take this, the fascinating adventures of the New York Times, which throughout the course of the last several months has in fact been very busy breaking stories about UFOs, or more accurately, to use the more recent terminology, UAPs, unified aerial phenomenon, all stemming from a long-anticipated, congressionally compelled report from U.S. Navy officials actually laying out the full catalog of objects encountered by military personnel that perform feats we cannot explain. The actual report, released by the New York Times, it shows 144 credible observers documenting incredible and inexplainable phenomena. And right now, right this minute, The California nonprofit SETI Institute, run out of Berkeley, of course, is undertaking the largest experimental effort to find evidence of extraterrestrial communication in the entirety of human history. You will not be surprised to learn that this project, Breakthrough Listen, it is called, is all bankrolled by $100 million from a Russian billionaire. Close encounters, first contacts, the moment we've all been waiting for when we realize we're not alone in the universe. It's more likely to happen in the next 10 years than ever over the whole course of the cumulative history of the human race. So that is what I've been reading about this summer. When I can't take it anymore, when I let myself be distracted by the stars, a whole new era of exploration, the possibility of truths we could never have imagined before. I welcome the ingenuity, the possibility, the idea of advancement, the dream that maybe we are less alone than we have previously imagined. What a thing to dream about. But we always have to come home, don't we? From our individual and collective flights of fancy, we always have to come home and to perceive not just what is above and beckoning, but what is around and even behind us. And when I look around and behind and among us, what worries me really and fascinates me all at the same time, it is not the aliens or their existence or non-existence or their arrival or their intentions when they get here. What worries me is us. We who wait here or reach out for a first encounter. We who wait here or reach out for a first encounter, all while failing to acknowledge how deeply, tragically flawed our own history of first encounters has always been. There are a great many first contacts, you know, scattered all over the course of human history, boundary-shaking moments when worlds collide and strangers meet and technology intersects with blinding rapidity. There are first meetings between civilizations and peoples, between individuals and community groups. They've been happening for as long as Homo sapiens and our ancestor species moved on this planet for the first time, and almost never, ever have such first encounters across difference left everybody alive and thriving at the end. From the first Homo sapiens themselves, who seemed to simply outcompete the species around them, to Bronze Age battles that left nothing behind in the archaeological record but thousands of human bones embedded with the remnants of new technology, the spear points that carved out life and death. From Francisco Pizarro, who came to the Inca homeland bearing gifts and microbes and death, and onward, of course, to the whole history of British colonialism and colonialism around the world, the doctrine of discovery that propelled immigrant Europeans to the spoilage of the land we all stand on, you know it all. I need not belabor the bloody tale. And as much as I like to be distracted by the stars, I still live on Earth, where human civilization is, of course, not one civilization, but a conglomeration of many, and where the whole arc of history shows that we, human beings, are frankly just truly horrible at welcoming or engaging or even just plain not killing the stranger. Some anthropologists would even argue that it's baked into our DNA. We outcompete. We outconsume, we outperform other species, other groups, other cultures, and the science shows on a purely biological brain chemistry level that it is in fact very difficult for a human individual to maintain meaningful social contact, a sense of being we, with anything more than about 150 different individuals. Which means that we are wired to believe somewhere deep in our biology that every single being beyond our 150-person circle is in some way they. And they, our biology teaches us, are the competition, and whoever we are, wherever we are in time, when we can, we beat them. With that backdrop, let me return perhaps to the stars and the aliens, and the reality that most scientists assume that any alien civilization capable of sending or receiving a message from humans would be both technologically advanced and extraordinarily long-lived. Science magazine recently reported that such a civilization would likely have existed for perhaps thousands or even millions of years beyond the state of the early adolescence that the human race appears to have reached. In other words, they'd be a lot smarter than us and more advanced. They'd have tools that we don't have. And our whole history as a species tells us nothing whatsoever good comes from all that. It indicates that another way of encounter that isn't deadly, another way might not even be possible. That only dreamers and philosophers, and yes, saints and sages, could only begin to imagine such a thing. Which is why every single major religion at some point has tackled the impossible and necessary question of what it means for human beings to actually welcome the stranger with anything other than deadly force, to offer protection and hospitality across the borders and boundaries of difference. Religion has tried time and time again to do what biology alone could not, to construct concepts of compassion that reach beyond the known and the understood, and create a we that is more expansive than perhaps our internal wiring was ever set up for. In a way, faith itself is another technology. It's a tool we use to be better so that more of us can live and thrive and make it through another day. And that technology of expansive compassion, it is woven through the human story almost as much, almost but not quite, as our drive toward dominion. The Torah alone makes 36 references to honoring the stranger, stemming largely from the Hebrew people's experience of suffering as strangers in the empire of Egypt. In the Hindu Upanishads, an essential mantra that is chanted over and over again like so many ones and zeros of computer code to rewrite the human brain, it intones the wisdom that the guest is as a god, so that none can forget for too long and suffer the deadly consequences of such forgetting. And of course, there is Matthew's gospel, which says what it is to welcome. I was hungry and you gave me food. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you welcomed me. All that sounds like so much Sunday school banality, doesn't it? Until you realize how radical it is and how essential. To expand compassion beyond the known boundaries of our own small groups right here at home. To encounter difference as anything other than a threat. To feed and to clothe and to sustain life beyond the narrow confines of our immediate circle. It is a radical and half impossible thing to do, which is why the great teachers of all time have never stopped preaching it. And if we can't do it, if we can't care about someone we've never seen, if we can't sacrifice even small inconvenience for those who are not in our immediate family, if we can't do it, what kind of cosmic naivete lets us imagine that the aliens ever could? It seems impossible, too much to bear, a task too great to achieve or even dream up. But why has the world always allowed ourselves to be distracted by the stars? Why did the whole world watch that one small step for a man on the moon? Why did even I catch my breath watching the SpaceX rocket ascend even as the world was burning underneath the early phases of this virus? Why am I waiting with bated breath for the first core samples to come back from the Perseverance rover that we somehow miraculously put on Mars? Because the stars speak of infinite possibility, of the ingenuity to do a hard thing that seems mostly impossible. Because there's a why the hell not spirit of technology that invites us to be something other than we are right now. Because we put a man on the moon, damn it. What can't we do? So why not? Why not make the impossibly expansive expression of human empathy possible in our lifetimes? Why not? Why not be explorers of a new reality, people who even in small and seemingly insignificant ways expand the borders of our compassion to show that even in some tiny way it is possible to encounter one another across difference in a way that does not erase the humanity and the sacredness of our neighbors? Why not? And if not us, who? And if not now, when? After all, that's what a congregation is for. That's what this time is for, if not here, where? As blogger Annie B. Jones recently wrote, congregations, after all, are one of the few remaining places I'm required to love my neighbor up close, to understand that inexplicable grace somehow covers us both. Surely, like me, some of you are tired from trying to care and care some more in the midst of chaos. Because it's hard caring this much, caring for people outside of our circle. It may in fact be a challenge to our own human nature itself, but what the hell, people, right? What more have we got to lose? If building your own rocket ship and taking your own damn self to space is possible, is it not possible? Is it not possible to rewire our own brains for expansive compassion? That doesn't have to be any more of an impossibility, does it? It's a different kind of engineering, I think, but everything depends on its success. So let's wake up and do 6 impossible things before breakfast. Just as human beings have always, let's start right here, reaching out to care, to feel compassion beyond the boundaries that history would write for us. Let us look right here to the space within, among, and beyond us, knowing that the stars get ever closer, knowing too that only love can engineer our hearts to be ready for all of the first encounters yet to come.
The billionaires are making their exit strategy. Bezos and Branson headed for space, forgetting perhaps that they've already filled it with trash. Junk satellites float silently in clacking, cluttered orbit. There is no escaping the mess we've made in our hurry to bring it all under control. No place to outrun the consequence of such plunder. Still, the universe is a symphony we are too small to disrupt, even with our crinkly gum wrappers and melting icebergs. Uranus and Neptune elude our reach yet, and the stars beyond our stars have never dreamed of our little lives, though we stretch toward them, though we breathe their dust. Amid it all, I choose the earth, green and blue and gasping, all its ominous fracked timpani and blithe bird song. I choose the long shot of repair and the orange and fuchsia sunsets that remain.
Mars ain't the kind of place to raise a kid, you know. Bowie tempted us with stars, but the rocket man, he longed for home. I choose my children covered in mud and sticky dripping popsicle even as I imagine their doom. I choose the wideness of this small planet for them too. And so for all but Branson and Bezos, I ask you, what is your strategy for staying? Tangled up in gravity and fiber optic lines and each other, maybe it starts with the ragged, earthy beat of our own star-spattered breath. What do you say but thank you? To Molly Hausch Gordon, who wrote those spectacular words we just shared, we who remain. To our own Renaissance man for an internet age, our own River Road rock star, Dave Leonard. To Danny, Marcia, and Jeff up in the sound booth, working the magic to make this all happen. Jesse at home, keeping us connected through Zoom. To Kirsten for daring the journey alongside all of us weirdos. And to all of you for creating a community, not because you have to, but because you choose to. What a blessing it is to expand our compassion together. And so, this Sunday morning, I invite you to go from this place ready and willing to be who you already are. You are the beloved and precious children of everything sacred in this world and beyond it. And the goodness and mercy, the joy and the justice, the power and the possibility of the Spirit are at loose in you and through you in the whole wide universe. So go then, to be who you already are, and may you be abundantly blessed. Amen.